Recently, the rumors about a skull-shaped mountain that could keep one's secrets were spread rapidly on social media. Every month, some people would receive a map with directions leading to a cave on the skull-shaped mountain, where inside it was a rock with a bizarre skull-shaped form. The cave that kept this rock had a miraculous ability. As one wrote down his secrets on a piece of paper and dropped it into the mouth of the stone, it would remove the secrets from existence. That day, despite the bad weather, the 6 lucky people who got the maps to the mountain had arrived in order to have their secrets kept from being uncovered. One by one slowly got inside the cave, wrote down their secrets on pieces of paper, and dropped them into the mouth of the skull stone. The group was led by Leo and Rose, a couple that was about to get married. They came here to erase all things from the past and start their newly married life. Suddenly, at that moment, there were thunder and lightning and the rain began to fall. As the rain was getting heavier, the mountainous terrain, which were already dangerous, now became even harder for one to walk on it, so the 6 of the group decided to wait until it cleared up, but the rain still had no sign of stopping soon. So, a man wearing glasses, who was the director of a big company, immediately advised everyone to stay in this cave for one night and wait until it cleared up, then all together went down to the mountain. Everyone agreed with this idea, except his beautiful girlfriend, who was at that time a little bit uncomfortable as she had to spend her night being at such a dirty, musty place. 6 people with no food or drink left got stuck on top of the mountain, waited for the heavier rains to stop so they could get back home soon. The sky got dark as it was getting colder and colder. The group had to collect firewood in order to light a campfire. Throughout the night, everyone couldn't hide the anxiety and insecurity on their faces. However, the man with glasses still acted calmly. He told the group to take a rest as they had to set off early the following day. The rest of the group listened to him. They laid up plastic tarps near to the campfire and laid on them. As everyone was sleeping, a black liquid was oozing out of the mouth of the skull-shaped stone. Hearing the bizarre noises, the beautiful woman who slept near the stone suddenly woke up. She rubbed her eyes, then looked towards the stone. It was until the liquid started moving and slowly appeared a dark shape that the woman started to panic. The rest of the group was awakened by the noises. As they had no idea what was happening, the shadow suddenly said, "The whole world would never know that I've had been through 36 plastic surgeries." As the shadow started to speak, everyone was freaked out. Then the shadow kept on saying, "Another secret that I want you to keep for me is that I've never been in love with my director. If it hadn't been for the money and the career promotion that he gave me, I would have never cared about him." Everyone was bewildered and confused, not knowing what the shadows was and what it was talking about. They started to panic, immediately wanted to get out of the cave. But it was unknown why the director and his girlfriend started to quarrel, as the man even slapped her in the face. The director became furious as he heard what the shadow was saying. It turned out that the liquid oozed out of the skull was telling the secrets that the beautiful woman wanted them to be kept. As the director found out about it, he was mad and scolded her severely. At this moment, Leo started to feel worried and a little bit scared to be at the cave. He suggested the group to leave altogether, but a man with ruffled hair named Ben turned down the suggestion as he believed the shadow was harmless. Rose also said that she had heard about the shadow thing, as it would show up every night and tell the secrets that were written in the papers. Since the group couldn't make their way down the mountain for now, they had to be there and witness this. Ben once again reassured everyone that staying in the cave would be safer than leaving at that moment, as it was raining heavily and they were likely to encounter landslides or even worse, some serial killer that lived nearby the area. As the man said the word killer, Rose was curious and then questioned Ben how he knew so many things about the mountain. Ben told the other 5 in the group that he had been doing research on this mountain for the last 3 months, so he understood it better than anyone and was sure that the shadow would show up again. The rest of the group was less worried as they heard what Ben told them. They went back to sleep. And what he said was true. 30 minutes later, the liquid started to ooze out again. Everyone tried to close their eyes tightly, pretending that they didn't hear anything as they worried their secrets would be revealed. This time the liquid turned itself into something with a human figure and started to tell the secrets it received. Compared to the previous time, this secret was a little scarier. During last month, I had killed 5 people. Please bury the secret with you. Everyone was terrified to hear that. They got up in horror as the shadow slowly returned to its liquid form. Their faces went pale. They started trembling except Ben, still acting calmly. After more than 5 minutes of silence, someone eventually decided to speak. A woman wearing glasses named Luna assumed that maybe the shadow was fooling them with its lies so they could all be scared. But Ben was sure that the secrets were told by the shadow were all true, as it could only repeat the secrets it had received. Then there was no way the shadow could make up stories and fool them. The director also made his assumption, since it was only 6 of them coming to the cave today, and the shadow only repeated the secrets it received during the day. Then it meant one of them was the murderer. As the man finished his sentence, thunder started rolling. The lightning from the sky shone upon his cold face, looking so scary. Feeling unbearable to stay longer, Luna became terrified. She panicked, screamed, and then rushed out of the cave. No matter how hard Rosie tried to stop her from doing it, the woman wouldn't listen to her. She demanded to go home as soon as possible and would never accept her death being here. As it was still pouring outside and the winds were getting stronger, the bridge that connected 2 cliffs of the mountain started to convulse and became even more dangerous for one to pass through it. She kept running and running, not knowing that the ropes of the bridge had been worn out and slowly torn apart. As Luna was halfway through the bridge, she realized that it was slowly weighing down. As the rest of the group heard the screams of their friend, they rushed out in panic in order to help her, but it was too late. As they got to the bridge, it was already broken and Luna had fallen off the cliff. The way to home for the 5 of the group seemed to become even more difficult. The only thing they could do now was to expect the rescue team to arrive and save them. As the night was still long, the remaining people didn't dare to close their eyes as they were scared the killer would kill them in their sleep, except Ben. The other 2 men were keeping weapons with them in case something bad happened. Despite no one saying anything, all suspicions were towards Ben. But Ben still calmly advised anyone not to panic. He even suggested a way for the group to find out who was the killer. According to what Ben had told them, every 30 minutes the shadow would appear and tell another secret. Then how about all of them willingly reveal their secrets so the shadow could point out who was the liar, and therefore that one would be the killer. To gain the trust of the rest of the group, Ben revealed his secrets to them. Ben had a daughter who tragically died half a year ago, and the reason why he regularly came to his mountain was because of her. 6 months ago, one day as he went home after a drink with his friends, he found out that his daughter was murdered by a serial killer who also regularly visited this mountain. Since then, Ben was determined to find him by all means and make him pay for his sins. 3 months ago, Ben heard some rumors about a mountain where people came there to bury their secrets. He immediately had a hunch that the murderer of his daughter might also be there to hide his, so Ben decided to go to the mountain searching for him. As the group listened to his tragic story, they were all shocked and their suspicions towards him slowly faded away. To end his story, Ben let out all his pent-up emotion, angrily shouted, "I've been waiting too long for this day. I will find you and you will pay for the sins you've committed." The rest of the group followed what Ben told them to do. One by one slowly revealed their secrets. Strangely, no one looked like they were telling a lie. Rose said that she always felt like she wasn't the one for Leo due to the mistakes she made in the past. And the director, his secret was him accidentally causing his friend to go bankrupt while the 2 were doing business together. which led him to end his life. The man had to live with the guilt for the past years. About Leo. At first he was hesitant to say it. It took him a while for the man to finally speak out his secrets. It turned out that even though it was only 1 month away from his wedding, yet the man still couldn't forget his ex-girlfriend. He sneakily went out to see her several times, so he wanted to come to his place to hide the secret before getting married to Rose. What Leo expected had become true, as Rose was furious to hear it. At that moment, she just wanted to slap him hard in the face, but she was immediately stopped by Ben, as it wasn't time for the two to have a quarrel. As everyone had already told their secrets, the shadow once again appeared. It looked like Rose didn't tell a lie, as the shadow repeated exactly what she had said to the group. So it meant that the shadow hadn't repeated the secrets of the 3 men. Fearing the murderer would get away, Ben reached out his backpack and took out a rope. Ben wanted the 2 women to tie all of the men up. That way the murderer wouldn't be able to escape. The women listened to what he had said. They tied the 3 of them to the big rocks. Suddenly Rose saw something and immediately rushed out to see, then held out that the rescue team had arrived. In the cave, the rest of the group turned all their attention to her. The director's girlfriend were extremely happy to know it. She quickly ran out of the cave. As the rain was still pouring heavily, and the fact that they made calls to the rescue team just an hour ago, how could they arrive in such a short time? But the beautiful woman didn't even care about it. She was so happy that she didn't even bother about the rain pouring on her and the bizarre behavior of Rose, who was at that moment standing behind her. There wasn't any arrival of the rescue team like Rose had told them. As she turned around to ask Rose about it, she immediately got pushed off the cliff by Rose. Seeing what happened in front of their eyes, everyone was freaked out, yet no one was able to move as they were all tied up. Despite knowing that the woman didn't truly love him, the director screamed in pain as he had to witness her lover getting killed. Turned out that Rose, a kind, gentle, naive girl, was the murderer. Then Ben started to have questions on his mind. Why did the shadow repeat exactly what Rose had told them, despite her telling a lie? As Rose heard the question from him, she coldly smirked and slowly got inside. She spoke to Ben in a sarcastic manner, which drove him crazy. She said that she had to thank him. If it wasn't for him asking her to tie them up, she wouldn't have been able to escape. About the secret, it turned out that the woman had previously seen the piece of paper that had secrets of the woman wearing glasses, who were already dead by now, so obviously her secret had become hers without anyone knowing about it. Leo couldn't hold up his anger as he heard that. He couldn't believe that his fiancée would be such a brutal, ruthless murderer. But then, Rose completely woke him up from his dream as she brought a large stone to him. As she had found out about his secret, the intent of killing him had appeared on her mind. She hit him on the head with a stone in her hand, without any hesitation. As the man lost his consciousness, she dragged him to the skull-shaped stone. Her actions were quick and flexible. She was indeed the serial killer that people were searching for. It looked like she wanted the one who cheated on her would end up being like the secret she brought to the stone, as they would disappear forever and no one would ever know about his fiancée's existence. Having finished her business with Leo, Rose approached Ben and the male director, threatened them, and definitely she would kill the two to clear up the trace. Ben was furious to find out that the cold-blooded serial killer was in fact a woman. Rose was delighted, as she said those who died would never be able to expose her secrets. But as she was about to kill them, the liquid once again oozed out of the skull stone, but this time it didn't turn into a shadow and tell secrets as it slowly covered the killer's body. It was too late for Rose to find out about it. She started waving, struggling to escape but couldn't get the fluid off her. The fluid gradually made it way higher and higher, slowly covered her body until she was unable to move at all. In just a moment, the fluid covering all of her body stopped her from breathing and killed her. The two men were shocked to see the scene happening in front of them, as they couldn't hide the terror on their faces. The woman's body slowly got dissolved into the black fluid. It turned out that since the evil woman had used the secret of another one, the stone had to kill her in order to bury it. She had violated the rules of this mysterious mountain, and therefore she had to be killed. The next morning, the rescue team finally arrived at the mountain, and so did the police, as they were reported seeing 2 corpses down the cliffs. 2 lucky men were saved, but they couldn't even stand still due to exhaustion and panic. Later, the cave was sealed off for further investigation, yet no evidence about the serial killer was found. In a deserted forest, there was someone walking in bewilderment. He couldn't remember how he ended up being here, and where was he heading to? All seemed so vague to him. The place was like a maze. The longer he walked, the harder it was for him to find a way out. Suddenly he saw a hotel which was on the other side of the road. Kudo breathed a sigh of relief as he had eventually found a place for himself to take a rest. Kudo quickly went to the hotel. He was overjoyed to see the hotel sign still lit up, and there were lights inside the building. But there was something odd. The hotel owner looked in Kudo's direction and greeted him. "Hello, are you two looking for a room?" But actually it was only Kudo. He felt strangely for a second, yet didn't bother much about it as he thought the man might be mistaken. The old man took Kudo to a room on the 2nd story. His room number was 303. According to the hotel owner, it was the only room left. After he handed the key to Kudo, the old man turned away, yet didn't forget to remind Kudo not to go out at night, as it might disturb other guests. This place was spooky. How could a hotel located in this deserted place be fully booked? Even the old man looked a bit scary to Kudo. Kudo didn't want to think much about it. He quickly went inside the room and rested as he was already weary. The room was clean and fully equipped. Kudo dropped his heavy backpack onto the floor and then took off his clothes. He had no idea why he was here. Ignoring everything, Kudo laid on his bed and quickly fell asleep. As he drifted into sleep, something strange happened. The air suddenly got cold that made him tremble. The windows were closed, but there were gusts of cold wind in the room. Kudo started breaking into a sweat, drops of water falling next to his ear making an eerie sound. Suddenly there was a woman wearing a white t-shirt. Her hair was long and wet and she stood by Kudo's bed. There wasn't only the sound of drops of water, but also something else that sounded similarly to her calling out Kudo's name. Kudo immediately reacted to it. He woke up. The atmosphere inside the room was cold, yet he was pouring with sweat. He couldn't hide the terror on his face. Kudo couldn't make out whether it was a hallucination or not, but the voice was so realistic. It took him a while to regain his composure. He got out of bed and checked around the room. He was under the impression that the sound of water dropping was from the restroom, so he went there to check. However, after checking every corner of the room, Kudo found out that there was no water leaks. Outside it wasn't raining either, so there wouldn't be any possibility of the room having rain leaks. Although the hotel looked a bit old on the outside, the facilities inside it were still new and firm, so it was unlikely for them to cause water leaks or strange noises. There was also nothing wrong with the showers, so where exactly was the noises from? This is so bizarre. Kudo scratched his head, trying to figure out what was going on around him. Was it all just a dream? While Kudo was busy doing something in the restroom, a woman wearing a long dress out of nowhere stood behind him. The atmosphere in the room now became even colder. When Kudo decided to go back to his bed, there was a sudden breath of cold wind that sent chills down his spine. Having plucked up his courage, Kudo clenched his fists and turned around. However, there was only him and the utter silence taking over the room now. The eerie sound somehow also disappeared. As his fear lasted for a while, he suddenly felt tired and sleepy again. He thought perhaps the tiredness he had after a long day had caused him to have hallucinations, so Kudo turned off the lights and went back to sleep. But he felt immense pain in his head. As soon as he laid on the bed, he immediately fell asleep, as if nothing had ever happened. But the spooky room didn't want to leave him alone. As Kudo was merely 5 minutes into his sleep, something freaky happened again. There were whispers and the long wet hair was hanging above him. The cold drops of water awoke Kudo. He still didn't know whether they were real or not yet. It felt so realistic. He touched his face, yet found no water on it. Sensing something strange, Kudo opened his eyes out of curiosity and went to check what was going on. Kudo's heart went into his stomach as he saw the thing before his eyes. It was a female ghost. Flesh merely covered her face, as it was only covered with skin. Her eye sockets were deep and empty, looking terrifying. Horrified, Kudo immediately ran out of the room and screamed out loud, but the female ghost didn't chase after him, as it just stood by the door and watched. About Kudo, he couldn't stop trembling as fear took over his body. He screamed for help while slamming the room number 306. "Is there anyone inside? Help me! Help me!" But no matter how hard he tried, the room was still locked and no one replied to his begging for help. Then he went on to knock on the room 307, yet nothing happened. Not only that, all the remaining rooms in the hotel didn't hear him screaming for help. The atmosphere at the corridor was charged with a deadly silence. Then Kudo saw a room that wasn't locked. With no choice left, he quickly took shelter in it. But as soon as he got inside, he was once again scared to death. At first it was a feeling of confusion, but then soon got replaced with strangeness and horror. His forehead was dripping sweat. His eyes were filled with terror. Inside the room there was a pale, skinny man. He constantly scratched the wall with his hands. The fingers were bleeding from the scratches. The nails were peeled off, yet he felt no pain at all. The man turned around as he heard Kudo calling him. His skinny face with bleeding eyes and the mouth was full of drool gave the impression that he wanted to eat Kudo alive. The man suddenly let out a scream. His face looked ferocious. Kudo was scared, his heart beating uncontrollably faster as he slowly stepped backwards. As Kudo turned around and headed to the door, he was no longer able to run as there were so many awful things happening in front of him. A terrifying scene appeared before his eyes. From the other rooms, the doors were unlocked and there were creepy creatures coming out of them. But the female ghost in Kudo's room was still at the door. She repeatedly told him to run. But Kudo was so terrified that he couldn't even stand still. He collapsed on the ground. His mind was empty and the only thing he could do now was to scream in panic. The creepy-looking ghosts slowly approached him. They cornered him to the wall. It was at this moment Kudo knew he wouldn't be able to escape. Kudo fearfully covered his eyes and waited for his death. Right that moment, from behind, the hotel owner appeared. He calmly walked in Kudo's direction. He walked through the ghosts and approached Kudo. But Kudo thought he was a ghost that was grabbing his wrist, so he panicked. The hotel owner pulled Kudo out of the ghosts. Thanks to his help, Kudo tried to drag his exhausted feet and ran while constantly asked the hotel owner what was going on. But the man didn't answer because this hotel wasn't a place Kudo belonged to. The only thing he needed to do now was to get out of there as soon as possible. The two hurriedly ran down the stairs, but somehow they were there times longer than they used to be. It's like there was some magical force of power causing them to be like that. But the two eventually made it out alive. As they reached the main door, the old man pointed at the opposite road and told Kudo to get there quickly. Kudo was confused, yet followed his words anyway. He didn't even understand why he was acting like that. Closely looked at the end of the dark road was an exit door that filled with lights. Perhaps it was where Kudo needed to get to. Before leaving, Kudo turned to look at the old man, but the man quickly got inside the hotel as if he was fearing something. He turned his gaze on the old-looking hotel again. A gloomy hell-like atmosphere took over the building. Kudo knew he had to run away from here quickly. The female ghost was still secretly watching him through the curtains. She saw him heading towards the bright door. Kudo needed to run as fast as he could to the door. Kudo had a strong feeling that there was some mysterious force pushing him forwards. However, there was also something else on his mind that slowed him down. Kudo felt like he had left something important to him, but he couldn't figure out what it was. As Kudo was heading to the bright door, he had to choose between his emotional attachment and his freedom. As Kudo was getting closer and closer, the bright door now appeared so huge to him. He bravely ran through the layer of lights, not knowing what was awaiting him. Kudo opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was not the blue sky, yet it was a light bulb and two surgeons with amazed expressions on their faces. Turned out it was just a dream he had due to him being in a coma after being involved in a car accident. Kudo had won his fight against death. His vitality had the doctors gasping in astonishment. 3 months ago, Kudo was on a car trip with his fiancée when a car accident tragically happened. The car lost its control and went down the river. Kudo and his fiancée were immediately rushed to the hospital as the two were in critical condition. However, the girl didn't make it. Kudo survived the accident, yet fell into a coma. The doctors had to take him to a special treatment room. Waking up after a long sleep, he didn't expect that the hotel, which was full of ghosts, was actually a world he created. As his consciousness got better, he still couldn't explain the emotional attachment longing he had now. Kudo asked the doctors about his fiancée despite having a bad premonition about it. His heart was shattered in pieces as he listened to what the doctors told him. It turned out the thing he had left behind in his dream was his fiancée. From the moment he got lost in the forest to the moment he went to the hotel and met that freaky old man, she was always watching him, but little did he know about her existence. It was also her that guided him to the bright door, so he wouldn't be tempted and therefore being able to escape his fake world and get back to reality. Kudo laid on his bed. His heart was still beating, yet he felt unbearable pain. The proposal ring was still there, but Kudo's fiancée had permanently gone. The greatest pain he had to carry now was the fact that he didn't remember her while she was always being by his side. Kudo couldn't hold back his tears. He bursted out crying like a child. But the more terrifying thing was, it was Kudo who created that virtual world, as it was a part of the X organization's experiment program. They wanted to create virtual worlds that could enter the mind of people who had already been dead and lock their consciousness in order to serve their research on human awareness. Kudo felt disgusted as he had to use his own work, and even more terrifying, had to try it on his future wife. However, the power of love was immeasurable, as she always protected him, no matter what could happen. This scary story revolves around a group of young men in a climbing club. This year, they decided to participate in a competition in order to conquer this mountain. Messi was the youngest person in the group. He was always left behind by his teammates. The rest of the group didn't like Messi either, as they thought he just slowed them down. As Messi was plodding through the snow, a guy suddenly walked to his back and pushed him to the ground. Having been exhausted, Messi fell on his face despite being hit with a slight impact. He quickly became a joke for the others. No one even bothered to help him up. Instead, they talked to him in a sarcastic manner. "Ha ha! There's still time to get back home and tell your mom to nurse you, weak sister. How dare a kid like you compete with us?" Of course, Messi was annoyed by those words, but he wasn't someone who easily gave up. Messi clearly knew that it would only be a disadvantage for him if he expressed his anger, so he hid his emotions and kept walking with the group. As they were walking, the group leader, who wore a blue coat, turned excited as if he had witnessed something special. He turned around and told the group that he had seen something interesting. Turned out it was a hole filled with snow that caught his attention. The man came up with an idea to play a trick on Messi. Messi had already caught up with the group. He even surpassed one of his teammates, but the other two in the group deliberately walked slowly in order to pull a trick on him. Messi had no idea about it as he kept moving forward. He didn't pay attention to the cunning look of the blue coat guy and his friend, who was wearing a purple jacket. As Messi finally walked past the two of them, he sensed something strange. As the two men blocked his way, Messi had to move to the side, yet it made him get closer to the hole. Right that moment, the man in purple quickly pushed him to fall down into it. Unfortunately, the spot was pretty slippery. It caused him to lose his balance easily and fell. The two men were delighted as they thought Messi would give up and went back home. But the snow hole was much deeper than they expected. As Messi let out a scream, he quickly disappeared into the dark inside the hole. Their faces changed color. They were startled. Initially, they just wanted to scare the kid so he would pull out of the competition. A few minutes had passed. Deep down the hole echoed a sound of something hit the ground strongly. Everyone who was present knew that it was an extremely deep one. While the men were still in bewilderment, the other two teammates rushed to check as they heard the loud noise. "What's happened to Messi?" The man in blue stayed silent as he heard the question from the one in yellow, while the purple guy replied that Messi had accidentally slipped down the hole. The rest of the group rushed to check. They turned their gaze down onto the hole and looked for Messi, yet couldn't see anything besides the dark. The one in yellow suggested letting down a lifeline to rescue Messi, but the rest of them stayed quiet to the suggestion as they realized how dangerous the hole looked after taking a look at it. They remained silent for a while. Then the man in purple held and ordered them to ignore Messi and keep heading to the destination, as they would report the incident to the rescue team later. The whole group followed the orders, even though they took pity on Messi. None of them had the nerve to climb down the hole and rescue him. As the snow fell heavier and it got colder, they felt exhausted, but they still hadn't found a suitable place to take rest. Moreover, it looked like they had lost their way. The only thing they could see now was the white color of snow falling heavily. A person in the group started panicking as they visualized a scenario of them dying before the sunset. Unfortunately, only walkie-talkie they had to communicate with the locals was kept in Messi's backpack. Being hesitant for a while, the man in purple made a decision to get back to the hole in order to get the walkie-talkie. As the sun was about to set, they moved as fast as they could and finally reached the spot. One of them had a hunch that Messi was still alive. The man in purple claimed that Messi was definitely dead, as the hole was too deep, and one had to go down there to get the walkie-talkie that Messi was keeping. The man in purple picked a rock and dropped it into the hole. It took them a while to hear the echo of it hitting the ground, and followed it was the scream of someone. It was Messi. He was screaming for help, while the one in blue and the purple one were shocked to know that. Since they wanted to get the walkie-talkie without wasting any effort, they let down a rope for Messi to climb on. A few minutes later, inside the hole appeared a red coat. It was Messi. He was struggling to come out of the hole, but instead of being angry at his teammates for leaving him behind, he was grateful that they had come back to rescue him. "How lucky I am! Thank you guys for coming back and saving me." Having come out of the hole, Messi was weary. He couldn't even stand still. But the rest of the group just cared about the walkie-talkie Messi was keeping. They asked him about it. But unfortunately, before he climbed onto the ground, Messi had left some of his belongings behind in order to reduce his weight, including the walkie-talkie. The whole group looked upset and disappointed when they found out about it. The man in purple immediately ordered Messi to come down to the hole again and get the walkie-talkie, since he had just come out of it. He would know where the backpack was precisely. The order made Messi tremble. To think of going down there again in the dark, together with a cold temperature inside the hole, Messi seemingly lost all his strength. But the man became furious as Messi refused to do it. It looked like he had forgotten that he was the one that caused Messi to fall down the hole. Inside his mind, he truly wanted to kick Messi down the hole again. Thinking for a moment, the whole group decided to go down and look for the object despite feeling worried and insecure. So they left their backpacks on the ground and carefully climbed down the hole using a rope. After 20 minutes struggling to come down, they eventually reached the hole's surface. Soon after, they breathed a sigh of relief. They started trembling because of the coldness and the narrow space inside the hole. There was no sunlight there, so the atmosphere was many times colder than it was above the ground. They started moving, looking for the backpack. However, as they went on and on, they couldn't find it anywhere. The man in purple was angry. He asked Messi in an annoying manner, "Where exactly did you leave your backpack?" Messi didn't show any emotion despite the man being mad at him. He told him perhaps the bag was thrown quite far from their spot, so it might take them a bit longer to find it. The man in purple looked at Messi. He noticed something strange, as Messi didn't have a shiver or feel cold like the rest of the group. The man believed that the winter jacket Messi was wearing had kept him warm during the freezing weather. The man offered Messi to exchange their jackets as he was the one leading the group. He endured more coldness than the others. Strangely, Messi agreed to do what he was told as he showed no hard feelings. He quickly took off his jacket and gave it to the man. Indeed, the man was right. It was extremely warm wearing this jacket, as if he was sitting near to a fire once he put it on. After exchanging their jackets, they kept on searching for the bag, but the others in the group quickly noticed the jacket looked warmer than it might seem. They started talking about it. The man knew they were talking about the jacket too. Not wanting his teammates to think that he was a selfish person, he shared the jacket with them. Needless to say, they were very satisfied with his action. In the group, the man wearing a grey coat was the one that had the least tolerance for coldness. Feeling unable to deal with it, he asked the man in purple to give him the jacket. The man unwillingly handed it to him. He took off the jacket and gave it to the man in utter regret. The man in grey looked like a dead body. A few minutes ago suddenly came alive after he put on the jacket. He couldn't stop talking about how warm it was. Opposite to him, the man in purple became even colder than he did before after taking off the jacket. He couldn't figure out if it was that he still hadn't coped with the coldness, or if it was something else that caused him to be like this. But he was still able to deal with this freezing cold. He ordered the group to move forward. As the rest of the group only cared about the jacket and desired to put it on, they didn't pay attention to Messi's bizarre behaviors. At that moment, the coat was passed on to the guy in blue. Just like the others, he quickly felt the comfortable warmth as soon as he put it on. But the guy in grey coat had to endure the extreme cold. Like the man in purple, he became many times colder than he was before soon as he took off the jacket. Not being as strong as the man in purple after he took off the jacket for about 5 minutes, he quickly felt like he was going to freeze to death. He asked to wear the jacket again. "Can I wear it one more time? I'm freezing." His begging irritated the man, as he was just having it on him for nearly 5 minutes. The man even threatened to beat him up. It was only until the guy in purple howled at them that they finally stopped. If the group didn't finish searching for the walkie-talkie quicker, they would all die in this cave. To the panic of the teammates and the freezing cold, the man couldn't stay calm anymore. He turned to Messi and asked him how long it would take to reach the bag in an angry voice. Messi, looking lifeless, slowly replied, "We are nearly there." The rest of the group stayed silent and kept moving. They hugged each other as a way of keeping themselves warm. 15 minutes later, they were all exhausted, yet the bag was still nowhere to be seen. This time the man in purple couldn't hold in his anger. He turned around and threatened Messi to show them the right way if he didn't want to get killed. But Messi showed no fear on his face as he looked strangely calm. He replied the bag was just around the corner, and they were getting closer to it. They had no other choice but to place their trust in him. As the man in purple turned around and told the group to keep moving, suddenly the guy who was wearing Messi's jacket collapsed on the ground. Everyone was freaked out to witness it. The man in purple quickly sat down to check what had happened to his friend, then immediately panicked to see the scene before his eyes. The guy wearing the jacket had frozen to death. His eyes rolled backwards. They were all shocked to find out about his sudden death, but Messi's facial expression remained unchanged, as if he had known it was going to happen. After regaining his composure, the man in purple ordered the group to keep moving, as he truly didn't want to end up dying like this friend. The group followed the man's orders. They left the dead body behind and went on searching for the backpack. One person in the group had died. If the rest of the group couldn't find the walkie-talkie soon enough, they would definitely end up having the same fate. The atmosphere became colder as they got deeper into the cave. Each of their steps got numb and became heavier. As the freezing cold had become too much to endure, the man in purple had to ask one of his teammates to go back and take the jacket off the dead body. But as soon as they went back, they were scared to death. Laying on the ground now was the man with a grey coat. As it was freezing cold, he had taken the jacket off to the dead man and put it on him. However, he still died from coldness. The man in purple had managed to stay calm this time. He noticed something strange, but he didn't say anything. He told the man to take away the jacket and wear it himself to stay warm. The man didn't think much about it. He did what he was told. He sat down and took the jacket off the dead man while constantly apologizing to him. The man put on the jacket and the group kept on moving. So far, 2 people in the group had lost their lives. The man, feeling so warm and comfortable as soon as he put on the coat, yet suddenly had shivers. His eyes narrowed. As he walked for a while, he became weakened and fell on his knees, then collapsed onto the ground and stopped breathing. As the 3rd people in the group had died, the man in purple quickly confirmed what he had expected. There was indeed something spooky with the jacket, so he didn't bother to take the jacket off the dead man and put it on him to stay warm. Instead, he came to Messi and asked if the group was closer to the backpack. Finally, he had received the answer he was waiting for. According to Messi, the walkie-talkie was right in front of him. The man's eyes lightened. He asked Messi with great delight, "Where is it? Hurry up, we gotta get out of here, quickly." Messi showed no emotion to the man's cheerfulness. He replied to him in a cold voice that the walkie-talkie was in his hands. The man was shocked as he heard the answer from Messi, but noticed the strange behavior of Messi. Instead of being angry and getting himself into a fight, the man decided to go search for it on his own. He shone his flashlight to the front, yet only saw a stone wall blocking the way. Looked like this was a dead end. He couldn't hide the disappointment and bewilderment on his face. His legs trembled as he slowly stepped backwards, intended to beat Messi up, but stumbled upon something hard. Out of curiosity, he turned around and saw something truly terrifying. Before his eyes was the walkie-talkie, yet he was no longer to stay calm and be excited. What he had stumbled on was the freezing corpse of Messi. After being pushed down the hole, Messi was still alive as he had thick layers of clothes on him. However, he couldn't find a way to get out of the situation, so he made his way deep into the cave, only to find himself in a tight corner and died at the end of the cave. The man shivered with fear. His forehead was dripping with sweat. A gust of wind sent chills down his spine. As the man tried to figure out what was happening, someone placed their hands on him. "I guess you are curious about the spooky jacket, aren't you?" The jacket with an X logo on it was sent to Messi, together with a map that had the location for the group to go. Under previous arrangement, the whole group was told to go there, only to have their bodies buried forever in this place. Meanwhile, a group of strangers would replace them to carry out the X organization's evil plan.